What's up, everybody? The UFC recently announced that Max Holloway will be taking on Ilia Topuria for the featherweight strap in October in Abu Dhabi. And let's talk about this fight, man. And if you're looking for a video of me discussing the fights that were announced on the main card, giving my breakdown and early predictions, I will link that down below. But in this video, we got to talk about this matchup because, man, I've been saying on my channel for an extended period of time, if there's any fight that the UFC could book, it's this one right here. Stylistically, this is the most compelling and most intriguing matchup, I think, in the entire organization right now that they could have put together. And let's talk about why that is. Because I think not only is Ilia Topuria the hardest fight that Max Holloway has ever had inside of his UFC career, I believe it is the most dangerous threat that he has had inside his UFC career. While I think that Max Holloway is also the hardest fight that Ilia Topuria has had inside of his UFC career. So let's get into kind of the nitty-gritty of this matchup, and I'm going to be very blunt and honest with you guys. Look, I sat up here for months and said, look, I think Max Holloway is being overlooked in this fight. I think people are counting him out ridiculously. I think he goes in there and not only beats Justin Gaethje, but finishes him. I was one of those guys that was saying that. And I felt very confident in my prediction. Why? Max was, he was coming up a weight class. He was faster than Justin Gaethje. And look, Gaethje's going to struggle with the speed. In this fight, I'm being as honest as I can, and I am a diehard Max Holloway fan. I'm actually very concerned for Max Holloway in this fight because if there is anybody that is going to finish him and we are going to see him get finished for the first time, it would be in this fight against Ilia Topuria. Now, do I think that that's going to happen? I don't think that that's going to happen. And let me explain to you kind of where my head is at as we're a few months out from this fight. Look, Ilia Topuria is a guy that used to fight up at lightweight, right? He's a big guy for the weight class. He's powerful, and he's incredibly compact. Everything is very boxing-oriented. He's got that high guard. He implements your shoulder roll. He's got that swaying side-to-side head motion. Everything about Ilia Topuria is very boxing-oriented. He digs his feet into the ground, and he's not just throwing things out there to pepper you. Everything that Ilia throws is powerful, it is fast, and it has bad intentions behind it. But a guy like Max Holloway, who's made, as I mentioned, heading into that Gaethje fight, him and his team have made some incredible adjustments in his fighting style that allow him to go in there with these kinds of guys and have a tremendous amount of success at the point in his career that he is at. Because look, Max Holloway is only 32 years of age. However, he's been fighting in the UFC for many, many years at this point. So in terms of the miles, he's got quite a bit of miles on him. In terms of the age, yes, he's still young, and I do believe Max Holloway is in his prime right now. I think that this is the best Max Holloway that we are getting right now in terms of fight IQ, in terms of just the overall understanding of what he is trying to do in there. And while I think that, Max Holloway has made all the correct adjustments, Ilia Topuria has a skill set that is going to pose a number of problems for Max Holloway. Because what we saw Max do up at lightweight against Justin Gaethje, it's going to be really hard to do that down at 45. Because what we saw Max do going up to 55, he put on the correct amount of weight this time because we saw him go up against Dustin Poirier for an interim strap at 155. It was a shorter notice. He kind of just didn't really cut any weight, but he came into that not in the best of condition. Whereas when he came in against Gaethje, we got to see that Max was absolutely prepared for the move up to 55. He looked bigger, he looked stronger, and he was sitting on a lot of his punches to where at 45, he doesn't really do that as much. And I think that a lot of that was this newfound confidence in a bigger, stronger Max to where him going back down to 45, it just causes some concern for me. Because if you go back and you look at the Arnold Allen matchup, if you go back and look at the Korean Zombie matchup, because those are his two last outings at 45, not only did we get to see the more elusive Holloway, but we saw a guy that, in my opinion, did not take a shot the same way that he used to down at 45. And that is where I get incredibly, incredibly concerned for Max Holloway in this matchup. I'm not saying that he's going to get finished because, again, saying that Max Holloway is going to get finished, that's a crazy prediction. It's a very bold one. It's not impossible, but we have not seen it yet. And if, like I said, if there's anybody that is going to do it, it's in this fight against Ilia Topuria. Now, Max's style, like I've mentioned, he's made incredible adjustments to where, in my opinion, he's going to have to fight Ilia the way he fought Arnold Allen. He's going to have to be very nimble on the outside. He's going to have to stick and move, and he's going to have to switch stances and give Ilia a lot of different looks. Now, if Max comes into this fight and just wants to straight up box with Ilia Topuria, I'm not saying that he can't outstrike Ilia in terms of the boxing. I think that it would be very, very wise of Max to make this a all-around kickboxing fight, because everyone keeps mentioning, well, Ilia has the grappling edge and he's just going to come into this fight and try to grapple with Max Holloway. I'm not so sure that we see that. One, because Ilia doesn't implement too much grappling in his fights. And when you do that, you kind of resort to the grappling in a fight when you don't really utilize it that much. It tends to wear you out. If you're not able to take a guy down and get a submission or get a finish that way, well, now you're going to, the round, say you stall out the round on top of a guy, well, now you come out in the next round, your arms are all blown out, your shoulders are tired, your legs are heavy, and that's because you're not used to grappling a ton in your fight. So sometimes that can actually backfire in a matchup. And in a fight like this against Max Holloway, who has really good takedown defense, is really hard, if you even take him down, to hold him down. I mean, we've really never seen that. To me, that would almost be wasted energy on the side of Ilia Topuria. So I don't think we see a lot of grappling. So what are we going to see? We're going to see an Ilia Topuria that's going to come out there very aggressive. He's going to come out with a point to prove, and he's going to try to shut Max's lights out. Now, it's going to be on Max to mix this up. Don't just sit there and box with Ilia Topuria. Ilia stands very heavy and low on that lead leg. If I'm Max Holloway, I'm attacking that lead leg, I'm mixing in the kicks to the body, and then I'm eventually trying to come upstairs with a head kick, because we have seen Ilia Topuria, Volk tried it, but he kind of was telegraphing it a little bit, making it a little too obvious. You got to hide the head kick. But if you do, that lead leg head kick, we saw Jai Herbert land it, we saw a guy back on the local pro scene land it on Ilia Topuria, and they were able to drop him utilizing a head kick. So if I'm Max Holloway, something that he even dropped Volkanovski with in the second fight is disguising and hiding a head kick behind his boxing. And if I'm Max Holloway and his team, which I'm sure they are going to be watching the film, and they are going to be recognizing that that is something that they're going to be able to use in this fight. Another thing Max does a very good job of, that spinning back kick. Ilia stands very, very low, and we've seen Max throw that at the end of that first round against Justin Gaethje and bust his nose. We've seen Max Holloway throw flying knees. He's going to have to break out the tools in this matchup against Ilia Topuria, because, look, I know that a lot of people out there, it's very easy to be kind of blinded because we love Max Holloway. He's coming off an incredible performance against Justin Gaethje, but I cannot stress this enough. Ilia Topuria is not Justin Gaethje. While Gaethje may be he's the highlight, right? Justin Gaethje is, every time he fights, it's going to be a crazy matchup. With Ilia Topuria, he's more technically tight than Justin Gaethje, and he is more responsible defensively than Justin Gaethje. This is the hardest fight Max Holloway has had inside of his UFC career. But like I said, I also think that Max Holloway is the hardest fight that Ilia Topuria has had inside of his UFC career. And you might say, Ilia took out Max Holloway, or Ilia took out Volk, and then Volk was able to beat Holloway 3 times. But again, guys, styles make fights. And the way that Max Holloway has adapted this new style ever since the Arnold Allen fight, I think, is really where we saw this. It has made Max so much better. It makes it a lot harder to get a hold of him. He's not allowing, where Max used to just kind of put pressure forward into Volkanovski and throw the combinations, and Volk would just kind of wait for him to throw and then counter. That's where Max was running into trouble. Whereas now, Max is skirting around on the outside. He's mixing in kicks. He's switching stances. He's giving you a lot of different looks, and he's not just spamming a bunch of combinations at you to where you are able to catch him in between the combinations. And that is exactly why Justin Gaethje struggled against Max Holloway, because Max was not just throwing a bunch of volume at him. He's being a lot more meticulous and a lot more intelligent in when he is throwing his shots. Not that he wasn't before. Max has always been a very high IQ fighter when it comes to the striking, especially. But it's the fact that when it's just common fight knowledge. If you are out there putting out a bunch of offense, it's great, but you're open to being hit. But if you limit your offense, like what we've seen Alex Pineda do, to where you kind of pick your shots, it's a lot harder to land shots, because now you're being a lot more defensively responsible. That's what makes John Strickland so hard to hit. Everyone rags on him for throwing a jab and a front kick, but he's always defensively responsible. He's always there to defend himself. And that is what we have seen Max Holloway implement, while still putting out a lot of volume, but in a very different way, kind of picking and poking at his shots, and not just sitting there throwing 100 punches at one time. He'll go pop, 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 and then he moves, and then pop, pop, and everything is just kind of touch, touch, go, touch, touch, go, and that's the new Max Holloway. And that style of Max Holloway, I think, is going to cause a lot of problems for Ilia Topuria. Now, I'm scared. I am scared because when I watch back the Arnold Allen fight, when I watch back the Korean Zombie fight, I see them landing on Max Holloway, and I see the effect that it had on Holloway, and it's just not the same as when Holloway was back in the day. I mean, Holloway would eat a clean shot and he would barely budge. To where when he's getting clipped with Arnold Allen, when he's getting clipped by, Zombie, you can see that it has a little bit more of an effect. And a lot of that could be just, some of the miles on Max, but more so, the guy cuts a lot of weight to get down to 45. He just bulked up to get to 55, and now he was used to being quite a bit more durable, because when you go up in weight and you're not cutting as much, you are going to be a little bit better in terms of the durability, to where now you're coming back down and you're now taking that weight off. And to me, this is going to be a very vulnerable Max Holloway. This is going to be a very vulnerable Max Holloway. And what we've seen from Ilia Topuria against the in the Volkanovski fight, he implemented a calf kick, which I think really surprised Volkanovski and Volk's team. I think that they were preparing to be the well-rounded kickboxer in the fight, to where Ilia came into that, looking like he was going to be very boxing heavy like he always is, and started to work that lead leg of Volkanovski, neutralizing his movement, to where they were able to pin him up against the fence, close him down, and get him out of there. Because Volk, a guy that likes to rely on movement, what's the best way to, take out a guy that relies on movement? Beat up the legs. We saw Alex Pereira do that to Izzy. If you could take away the movement and make them a stationary target, there's nowhere for them to go. You could close them down, box them in, and kind of do what you want, and then let the hands fly. I think that that's going to be Ilia's approach. I think that that's going to be his approach. Look, he's going to try to sneak in some of those calf kicks, try to beat up the lead leg of Max Holloway, and we've seen Max is as tough as they come, even, not just, taking shots that can't put him out, but also Gaethje landed so many leg kicks on this guy, and it just didn't even faze him. So to say that, Ilia is going to come in there and beat up the leg of Holloway and cause him some trouble there, not so sure that happens. But the way that Ilia fights, how aggressive he is, how confident he is, this is a very, very dangerous man coming into UFC 308. But I think Max Holloway has a newfound confidence going out there on back-to-back KO victories. One at 45 against Zombie, one at 55 against Gaethje. I still think that the skill and elusiveness of Max Holloway is going to cause some problems for Ilia Topuria, to where he's able to kind of just pick at him for 5 rounds and win a decision. But like I said, I think that this is the most dangerous fight that Max Holloway has ever had in his UFC career. And he's had a lot of crazy fights in the UFC. I think this is the most dangerous, considering how good I believe, and I think a lot of the MMA community think Ilia Topuria is. But I want to hear from you all down in the comments. Like this video. Comment your early predictions below. Do you think Topuria gets it done? Do you think Holloway gets it done? Subscribe to the channel. Help your boy out. I would appreciate it. See you next time.